Good morning. First of all, I have my stone pre-painted on the edges to kind of blend the sides when I deco the edges in so they blend into the side. So I picked up my stone and did paint. I lined up my napkin where I want it to be on the stone approximately. And then now I'm going to deco the edges. That's like ripping the edges so they have a little tear to them, so you don't have a straight edge. So I'm using a paintbrush and I'm going along the edge, and what I try to do is keep the edge way at the edge wet. And then I am going to hold the napkin in place and kind of rip it so it doesn't come up past the top of the stone. As you see, I don't want it to come, if possible, to the top of the stone, but maybe hang over the edges a little bit. Wet my brush again, get a little wetter, and hold my thumb in place to hold the napkin. I'm going to lift up the stone, rotate it so I have the work surface right in front of me. Get it wet again, wet closest to the bottom of the edge of the stone as possible, holding the napkin so it doesn't rip up to the top of the stone. As I work my way around, I will lift up the stone and to turn it to make it beneficial for my work surface. So as I'm ripping, you can see what's happening, hopefully. I guess I'll have to check the video. I don't want to watch and stop. So I'm going to keep it wet, going along the bottom edge of the side of the stone, and I'm ripping the napkin. Turning the stone on the edge, wet it again. I do not like to see straight edges of the napkin on a stone, if possible. I did one with a manger scene. I wanted it kept straight because of the robes of the wise men, etc. Now on the top of the stone, I'm at the top and the napkin is at the edge. So there I'm going to just take a little bit off and just rip the napkin where it's been wet. And some of the stone is going to show, but I do my best not to let the water impede or me ripping part of the antler of the deer. Wet my thing again. Spread a little water on there, just ripping that edge ever so slightly. I get around to the corner by the edge of the stone. I kind of like round the corner a little bit, ripping that edge. I turn my stone a little more. This straight edge goes along the side of the stone, which is straight, so I don't want to take off a lot of there either. I want to take off just a little bit so it maybe overhangs the edge of the stone. If by chance it rips it, it just goes onto the stone and you've got some color there for it to blend into. So as I keep going down on this straight edge, because the stone is just by chance a little straight there, I take off as little as possible for it to overhang. I keep working my way down the side, turning the stone. Get it wet again, pull off a little more, work my way down to the bottom, and now I am at the bottom of the stone. So as you see, I have decoed the edge all the way around so it overlaps and goes into the side of the stone. So then what I want to do next is I take my napkin off. I'll turn it upside down. If you notice that the napkin is wet, so what I like to try to do is I would use a hair dryer to blow off and kind of dry the edges of the napkin so they aren't so wet. So when I take it apart, it's in a drier state. So So as you know, the napkins are 3-ply typically. So what you do is I tip it upside down. I personally use 2 pieces of painter's tape. Click on one side to the other, kind of pull it apart. There is one layer of the backing. And then I go back and get to the other layer. Just press it on both sides until you can get it. And then be careful when you pull your tape off. And then this last layer, these napkins are embossed together, so you want to peel them apart gently. Otherwise, you could wreck the fine, thin layer of the design. So you want to peel them off. This portion of the napkin has been embossed, so it holds it together. So you just got to be careful and gently peel that apart. There, the last one is there. Now I have my napkin, ever so thin layer, already decoed to go onto my stone. My next step is to use I use a Decoupage napkin. It's for napkins specifically. It has a thinner consistency than Mod Podge, which is a thicker one. So I take my brush and my Mod Podge, and you don't need a lot. Just smear it on the stone, smear it around the edges, because my edge of my napkin goes around the edges, and when the edge of the napkin goes over the edge, you want it to stick. And you do not need a lot of this decoupage on the stone. You put a nice thin layer. If it's too thick, it'll be too watery for you. I put it underneath here because the stone was caved there, so I got a nice thin coat. There we go. The next step is I've already got together a piece of saran wrap. It's just the saran wrap. I have that in hand. I will place my napkin on the stone, line it up to where I want. I have like cupped the napkin, so if it by chance touches the stone first, at least the center is down. So I line it up as best I can. I will place it down like that. Place a saran wrap on the top, press in the middle, and work my way out. That's why you want to start in the center and work your way out to try to avoid the wrinkles as much as possible. By using that thinner Mod Podge napkin, it makes it a lot nicer and more forgiving as far as wrinkles are concerned. So I peel off the saran wrap, I'll fold it in half, and then I will use the outside portion to push it down, adhere the sides and the edges, and I will press, especially in this area where the embossment was, to try to get the embossment out. And just a hint, after this is dry, before you do anything else, if you want, you can use an iron with a piece of parchment paper. Put a piece of parchment paper over the top. Use an iron on, say, permapress, and you can go over the stone, and that'll help get rid of these marks from the embossment on the napkin. So what I do now is I try to spread as much as I can to try to get rid of as many little wrinkles as possible. I'm not perfect, I do have some. And if they stick up a little bit, by using the iron method, that will also smooth down that wrinkle so it isn't sticking up. I try to smooth out as much as I can all the way around. I have a section of napkin right here that is sticking up a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of the Mod Podge, I'll go underneath and contact the stone. And then I will take my saran wrap again and press it down so it will be adhesive to the bottom. And I look around on all my edges, make sure my edges are down and adhered to the side of the stone. So I keep pressing this a little bit. You don't have to be super good, but it makes it look nice. And in this case, the way I see it right now, I know that I will use the iron method once this is dry, parchment paper, iron, to get rid of some of this embossment. So you want to do that. After this particular stone is dry and I do the embossment, I usually take it outside because I use a spray glaze, a Krylon spray glaze. I've also used a Rust-Oleum spray glaze that's clear and gloss, and I will spray that several times. I put a little bit on at a time, just a little bit. Don't hold the can too close, because by doing too close, it might lift up that napkin and cause you wrinkles. So hold it good 10 inches away, spray a little bit, let it dry. Say give it about 20 minutes to an hour to dry a little bit. Go back and spray it again. Add another layer. Couple hours later, the same thing. Go back and spray it and add the layers a little at a time and give it a good 24 to 48 hours for the complete thing to dry. So when you press on it later on, you don't leave any impressions in the glaze that you put on the top. And just an FYI for the back of the stone, what I do for a local here, I write on my stone, on all my stones, I put FB for Facebook, and then Sheboygan Rocks. And I put the 2021, and I always put my name. And then what I would do on the back of mine, I put a layer of the Mod Podge to seal that. And then just my process would be next, I would take it to the basement and put a layer of polyurethane. Excuse me. It's a triple glazed polyurethane with a little brush. Let that dry. Then I would take it outside to do my spray on the top of the stone. So for now, I just leave it on the top. So that is my process for doing that. I hope that helps.